Dear participants, good morning. Thank you for joining this webinar organized by Augstsprieguma tīkls, also called AST. Today we are hosted by the member of the board, Mārcis Kauliņš, and head of finance and accounting department, Māra Grava, who will present AST financial results of 6 months 2022 and inform about other key events in the company. The presentation will be followed by a live Q&A session. To submit your question to the company, please use the Q&A window that you can find beneath the presentation. This session is being recorded and the recording will be available shortly. I am now handing it over to the presenters.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So, some key facts I will remind you about AST Group. We are a Latvian electricity transmission system operator owned by Ministry of Finance of Republic of Latvia. Our service is regulated public service. We have a credit rating A-, Sustainability Index Platinum Award. Also important branch of our business is we are in ownership 68.46% of Connexus Baltic Grid, which is a Latvian gas transmission and storage system operator. Also, we are shareholder of Baltic Regional Coordination Center. That's in brief about AST Group. Let's go to the next. Main events in first half of this year is electricity price skyrocketed significantly, 186% versus relevant period of 21. Also, commercial electricity flow from Russia Federation has been interrupted. We did establishment of Baltic Regional Coordination Center. This is not business unit, this is an operation unit common for all Baltic TSOs. Work in process to continue the emergency desynchronization from BREL and synchronization with European continental electricity grid. I would like to remind that planned synchronization is meant for year 25. But so we are in progress to have emergency desynchronization if necessary. Fee for system backup power reservation transmitted electricity is 2% year over year. In Connexus side, we have changes in legislation. Connexus have to have an energy safety reserves. Transmitted gas volume minus 24% year over year volumes. Work in progress to complete inch accounts, underground storage, modernization and gas connection upgrade between Lithuania and Latvia. So to have a better flows to Klaipėda LNG terminal. And completed Poland-Lithuania gas transmission line or GIPL interconnection. Also, Connexus joined the European Hydrogen Backbone Initiative. Next slide, please. Yes, sharp increase in electricity price. In June, the average price of electricity in Latvia stood for 218 euros per megawatt. This was increased 186% compared to the June 21. And this is historically the highest monthly average electricity price since opening of the electricity market have been reached. In July, the price of electricity jumped up to 304 euros per megawatt. And this record was easily beaten within August. Average price stood for 467 euros per megawatt. So this is a very significant impact on AST and on tariff, future tariff for our clients. Next slide on transmitted electricity. Transmitted electricity volumes are stable, and we have managed even a little bit decrease losses of transmission grid, which increase our efficiency. So no significant changes in transmitted electricity, stable in local consumption, stable in transit flows. On Connexus, yes, there is a decrease in transmitted gas volumes, and there is decrease in stored gas in Inčukalns underground gas storage. Of course, we all know that it's the gas system is heavily impacted by the Ukrainian war. There is a ban for Russian Federation gas import from January 1st of 23, but de facto this ban already has taken place because of difficulties to pay in rubles to Russian side. So, but we have also huge interest in reservation of Inčukalns underground storage capacity. So it means when Paldiski terminal will be in place or alternative supply roads, there will be great interest in underground gas storage, because this is the only one in the region. So far so good. Next slide. Group financial highlights.
Now I would like to give you an overview of our 6 months results and key financial ratios. As can be seen in the graph on the left-hand side of the slide, AST revenues for the 6 months of 2022 reached 91 million euro. Compared to the last year, our revenue increased by 79%. These results are mainly driven by an increase in revenue from system auxiliary services. However, the impact of the revenue generated by the auxiliary services on the bottom line was almost neutral due to the comparable growth of associated costs. The amount of revenue generated from electricity transmission services in the first half of 2022 remained broadly unchanged from that of 2021. AST's EBITDA and profit were negatively affected by the sharp increase in electricity price. In the first half of 2022, AST incurred losses of 0.5 million euro, while our loss only from electricity transmission segment stood at 7 million euro. Such a loss is related to the fact that the current tariff doesn't cover the costs associated with the increase in the price of electricity. But according to the tariff methodology, changes in the transmission revenue as well as changes in the costs due to changes in the price of electricity are included in the next tariff, thus covering the risk of turnover and costs. I will not talk about group results since the trends are similar to AST's. The pie chart on the right-hand slide illustrates our key customers by income. Since about 90% of the revenue is received from the state-owned companies, the risk of non-timely receipt of payments for AST is quite low, and our cash flow remains stable. Asset value of AST at the end of June 2022 stood at 899 million euro, a slight decrease compared to 2021, mainly due to a decline in cash. In May 2022, AST paid 29 million euro in dividends to the state. The decrease in equity from 465 million euro to 436 million euro is related to the dividends paid out of the 2021 profit, as well as the results of the 6 months of 2022. Despite the minor changes, the equity ratio remains well above all applicable covenants at a healthy 48%. As I mentioned previously, the group financial results exhibit similar trends, so I won't stop on them here. Moving on the group's revenue and EBITDA split by segment, the group's revenue is split into 3 segments: electricity transmission, gas transmission, and gas storage. The parent company AST is considered as one operating segment, the electricity transmission segment. As you can see in the pie chart on the top, the share of electricity segment in the total revenue amounts to 77%, whereas EBITDA from the same segment only makes up 44% of the grand total. Looking now at the graph on the left-hand side, we can see that the group's revenue was positively affected by the increase in revenue in the electricity transmission segment. As a result, the group's total revenue rose by 48% compared to the same period in the previous year. Despite higher levels of revenue, EBITDA decreased by 34%. It was negatively affected by growing costs of purchased electricity aimed at compensating power losses in the electricity transmission segment. But, as I mentioned before, there is a mechanism in tariff methodology which allows AST to compensate for these losses in next years. Now, I would like to provide you with more detailed information about our financial results in different segments. Revenue from the electricity transmission segment increased by 40 million euro or 79%. However, due to soaring electricity price, electricity transmission segment reported a net loss of 7 million euro. The loss should be recovered through the next tariff in next years. Actual gas transmission segment revenue reached 14 million euro, a decrease of 24 or 5 million euro. It was affected by a drop in the natural gas consumption in Latvia of 2.2 terawatt-hours or 32%. Partially it was due to a warmer weather condition, as well as the reduction of gas to power electricity generation by 2/3 in country's largest power plants. Gas storage segment's revenue reached 14 million euro, an increase of 23% or 2.6 million euro. It was positively affected by various products reserved by the market participants, storage tariffs, and applicable auction premiums. All financial covenants set in the AST and subsidiary companies' agreements have been compliant with during the reporting period. Although the group's total liquidity indicator didn't reach the set goal, a sufficient liquidity reserve was and is provided by overdraft agreements. AST borrowings are represented by bonds in the amount of 100 million euro. These bonds have maturity date in January of 2027 and a fixed annual coupon rate of 0.5%. To finance working capital, AST has an overdraft agreement with a limit of 20 million euro at 3 months Euribor plus a premium of 0.35%. Nevertheless, AST never had to use the facility during the reporting period. At the end of the reporting period, Connexus had 74 million euro in outstanding debt. To ensure high level of liquidity, Connexus had overdraft facility up to 65 million euro, of which only 7 million euro were utilized. But now I would like to talk about capital investments in the first half of 2022. The amount of capital investments in electricity transmission segment was 11 million euro, of which 6 million euro were invested into the maintenance and renewal of existing network, 3 million euro into the project synchronization with continental Europe. I will give more detailed information about the main projects in electricity transmission system in the next slide. The amount of capital investments in gas transmission segment was 2 million euro. The main project is enhancement of Latvia-Usieni interconnection with total investments of 5.5 million euro, 50% of which are co-financed by EU. It is planned to implement this project by 2023. During the reporting period, Connexus invested 0.5 million euro in this project. The amount of capital investments in the gas storage segment was 4 million euro. The main project is enhancement of Inčakalna underground storage, with total investments 88 million euro for the modernization of storage facility. The project is co-financed by EU. Connexus is planning to complete this project by 2025. During the reporting period, our subsidiary company made investments in this project in amount of 20 2.1 million euro. Every year, AST prepares a 10-year development plan, which is then approved by the regulator. In June 2022, the development plan of the power transmission system network covering the next 10-year period was submitted to the regulator for approval. In the next 5 years, AST is planning to invest 400 million euro, of which 240 million euro are part of the EU co-financed strategic projects, and 160 million are directed towards the existing network maintenance and upgrades. The EU co-financed projects are planned to synchronize with continental Europe, which is our strategic goal. AST invests approximately 20-30 million euro every year to maintain and renew the high quality of the system in place. That's all about our financial results.
So next slide's on planned events. Next period. So some highlights. As I mentioned before, we are ready for emergency desynchronization of the Baltic power system. This is very significant event if it happens, but we are ready, and that is a good news. New tariff methodology. Next slide will be more in details on that. Realization on capital investment projects. We have important capital investment projects for next period, as for example, synchronous condenser stations must be built for desynchronization needs. Financial risk management according to the electricity price and capex price increase. In a gas system, there is in highlights I would like to mention provision of natural gas reserves. Potentially unplanned investments in natural gas transmission systems. There are ongoing discussions on LNG terminal and how it will be related to the gas TSO. Establishment of gas origin certification system in Latvia, so the customers can follow the gas origin. Ban on natural gas deliveries from the Russia Federation from January 1st. 23, but as I mentioned, it already has taken place de facto because of impossible financial transactions with Russia. Tariff methodology. In this August, regulatory has approved significant changes. I would like to stress following: revenue and non-controllable expenses differences regulated company receives in the next year tariff instead of forthcoming tariff period as it was. So we will receive those changes more quickly. Increase in the price of electricity greater than €7 per megawatt can be recovered in the next tariff period through regulatory invoice. Congestion fee revenues can be used to reduce tariff. Up to this point, we can use congestion fee revenues for capex projects. Now we can directly put them into to subsidize tariff needs. The change in the rate of return on capital from real to nominal as of year 25. The result of revaluation of assets carried out after January 1st, 22 will be not included in the RAP. It's linked to this change of the WACC rate change from real to nominal. So next slide, please. So we already are in questions and answers. Thank you.
Mārcis, thank you for the presentation. Exactly. Let's continue with the Q&A session now. To ask your question to the company, please use the Q&A window that you see below the presentation. There are 2 questions that we have received before the webinar. We'll start with those and then continue with the questions received during the session. Has the current situation regarding inflation, material costs, and sanctions affected your capital investment plan? Is everything going according to the plan, or are there any significant adaptations?
Well, of course, inflation and Ukraine crisis made some difficult decisions for us. We have to change supply chains. Materials imported from Russia, Belarus, or Ukraine are not accessible anymore, and the price increase was significant. But we manage out. We established the alternative supply chains, so no one of our projects is stopped because of lack of materials, and also there was a significant turn in public procurement process. We are allowed to do indexation for contracts which are influenced by Ukrainian war, so we can adjust investments and additional expenses to already existing contracts. So no one is stopped, no one went in bankruptcy. All our CapEx projects are ongoing successfully.
Thank you. Recently, on your website, there was an information about changes in the members of the board. Can you please comment the reason why changes are happening and what effect it will have towards AST operations?
Yes, thank you. It's me who is leaving due to the personal considerations. There will be no effect on AST daily operations as there are still 4 board members. So board is fully operational. The new member of management board will be elected basis on law on the public company governance. So the tender we are expecting, not tender, but nomination commission and election procedure for new management board member.
Thank you. Then we have one question received during the online webinar. When do you expect that the tariffs will normalize, and how changes in the tariffs will impact AST in long term?
So we are planning to have a new tariff for next year, and this new tariff project will include all of changes of existing situation, increase of electricity price, increase of capex price. So this will be already normalized tariff. It will cover all our expenses, and those changes will not impact AST in long term negatively, because we as a regulated tariff company, we will receive all of our expenses and capital return rate. So they will have some impact on our consumers, but not direct impact on AST because of nature of our service.
Thank you. With this, all the questions are answered. The recording of the webinar will soon be available online. Therefore, please follow AST announcements to stay up to date with company's news. Mārcis, Māra, thank you for your time. Participants, thank you for joining the call.
Thank you.